Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, the Bank of Ghana projects a notable drop in the cost of credit and lending rates starting next month, following its decision to cut the policy rate by 350 basis points to 21.5%.
300 resulted in some 250 basis point cut in the commercial banks responding to businesses, right?
Yes, I saw.
Are you going to
260.
see about some 300 this time round?
We should. I think we should.
Also coming up, funeral tourism will discuss the economic ripple effects of the Asante Hima's funeral. My name is Daryl Kwao. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. Thanks for being with us, everyone. My name is Daryl Kwao. The Bank of Ghana is projecting a notable drop in the cost of credit and lending rates starting next month, following its decision to cut the policy rate by 350 basis points to 21.5%. As part of broader efforts to stimulate economic activity, the central bank is also rolling out additional measures aimed at supporting commercial banks to improve credit access for businesses. Director of Research at the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Philip Abedu Otu, shared more insights on these developments on PM Express Business Edition.
A 350 has been done. I expect another 350 to be done to lower the cost of credit for businesses. That in itself is a transmission. The way I think about the transmission from the central bank to the real economy, it happens in two stages. The first stage is from the central bank to the commercial banks. And then the second stage of the transmission is from the commercial banks to the real economy. Normally, the transmission from the central bank to the commercial banks is full. It's always 100%. Then in the second stage, at times it gets a little bit quirky, it gets a little bit tough because of probably the conditions of the commercial banks, and they try to risk profile their clients, and in the end the rates don't pass through well to the rest of the economy. I've seen this first cut that we did pass through already to the rest of the economy, and I think as we go down, as the banks continue to operate profitably, as the banks continue to operate in a well-capitalized environment, they'll begin to pass on some of these to the rest of the economy.
The 300 resulted in some 250 basis point cut in the commercial banks responding to businesses, right?
Yes, I saw.
Are you going to see about some 300 this time round?
We should. I think we should.
Joining me on Zoom is Wilson Zilevu, who is an economic analyst with Data Bank Research. Good afternoon to you. So the Bank of Ghana has cut the policy rate by 350 basis points to 21.5%. From your perspective, is this aggressive enough to stimulate borrowing and investment?
Thank you very much, Daryl. Yes, from my perspective, I think to some extent it goes a long run to stimulate borrowing. Considering where we are coming from, 25%, and then a 350 basis points cuts to 21.5%. A lot of it will be dependent on the creditworthiness on the market and how best old loans are recovered, you have a situation where the NPL is hovering around 21.7%, indicating that is excluding provisional losses, indicating that loans have not fully been recovered from the market. So I think banks would have a cautious strategy to disburse loans, and we don't expect a direct impact soon. We expect a gradual approach to the disbursement of loans to aid in economic activity.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about loans, but the central bank, do you think they've got room to ease the rates further? Because, I mean, inflation is targeted to fall within the target band, projected to fall within a target band of 8+2, if I'm not mistaken, by the end of the fourth quarter. Talk to us about what we should be cautious about going forward in terms of fiscal pressures.
Hey, thank you very much, Dario. So basically, in my view, so currently the NPL is at 21.5%, and our projections at Data Bank, we expect it to hover around 9%, plus or minus 2 percentage points. All things being equal, the committee can implement about 300 basis point cuts with real rates still in positive levels. What that means is that the returns on loans will not be completely eroded by the rising prices on the market. We don't expect demand pressures to resurface soon, considering what we are actually seeing on the market in terms of high NPL. On the side of fiscal imbalance, it appears fairly anchored. We've seen sharp declines in the risk-free rate, or should I say relatively risk-free rate, which obviously means less cost to government. And I think most importantly, what we should look out for is the cedi's performance. All things being equal, if that is well anchored, and the outlook on inflation or inflation expectation is well anchored, it gives room for further cuts to stimulate economic growth.
Yeah, we had Dr. Philip Abredu-Otu talk about his expectations that banks would respond to the policy rate cut. How? I mean, he's looking at next month at the earliest. How soon do you think banks are going to respond to this? And should we expect a drastic cut in lending rates?
Okay, so theoretically speaking, the idea is that as soon as you effect a cut, it anchors the GRR downwards, making loans softer, and that should translate into increased demand for loans and increased extension of loans by these banks. With the 91-day bill looking quite unattractive, we've already seen banks get creative with the disbursement of loans. However, it's still not a direct process. The multiplier effects do take time to ripple downwards. You have a situation, as I said earlier on, the NPL is still high. It will be heavily dependent on credit worthiness on the markets and the credit score of businesses. So going forward, as I said earlier on, we expect a cautious disbursement of these loans in the market. We don't expect a fast pace. We expect it to be on a cautious tone.
Beyond the rate cut, we had the central bank talk about additional measures to support bank lending. What kind of tools or reforms would make the biggest impact on credit availability for businesses?
Okay, so in my view, I think number one, stricter management of non-performing loans to restore asset quality is one, and also enhanced regulatory oversight is also another one, and then tighter fiscal lending guidelines, as we've already seen, to sort of improve transparency and protect the borrower is also one of the guidelines that you can look at. So basically, these guidelines should improve, credit score of businesses, and that should, augur well for further disbursements in the near future.
Well, finally, how do you expect the rate cut to impact the trajectory of the economy, especially on SMEs and the informal sector?
Okay, so so basically it's a positive impact. We expect economic activities to boost in the long run. For SMEs, although this obviously enhances export business activities. To some extent, it is well anchored on adaptability, how best these SMEs can adapt to the changing economic environment because of the competition that is in the market. So basically, although these SMEs have in the past gotten softer loans, we should see further disbursement of these softer loans to these SMEs. But most importantly, their survival in the market will be heavily dependent on how quickly they are able to adapt to competition in the market.
All right. Thank you so much, Wilson Zilevu, who is an economic analyst with DataBank Research. Appreciate your time. The Ghana Revenue Authority has held a grand dinner event to honor its retirees and former staff as part of efforts to promote a culture of dedication and excellence within the institution. The ceremony not only celebrated the remarkable contributions of past employees, but also served as a bonding platform between veteran staff and new members of the authority. Speaking at the event, Commissioner General Anthony Kwesi Sarpong commended the retirees for their exemplary service and encouraged them to continue offering their expertise and guidance to the GRA in various advisory roles.
The event brought together senior staff and management members of the authority to share goodwill messages and success stories of the Ghana Revenue Authority at various stages of their operations. Certificates of appreciation and citations were given to members who excelled in their times during active services. In her speech, Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Kwesi Sarpong, urged the retirees to make themselves available to provide some guidance to current members when necessary.
One appeal I would like to make to you is that don't leave us and just enjoy your retirement. I think, especially for our leadership ladies, take it upon yourself to take one lady in the authority and be a guide and mentor them. And for the men, take one young person you left in your last post, just one, and guide them, groom them, because experience comes with time. And you've gathered a lot of experience over the years. And I believe that even if it is 1 quarter, you have a conversation with one person in the authority and share your experience and provide guidance and give them direction. It is a way of continuing to give back, and it's a way of building the young people also to keep to the very work that you've done.
It therefore expressed gratitude to them for their service to the GRA and the nation as a whole during their active years.
So we are very proud of you. You did not just serve, but you rose to the rank of leadership to make sure that what you do matters for the authority and what you do matters for the state. So on behalf of our board of directors, on behalf of management, I stand here to sincerely express our appreciation to you for all these years of dedicated service.
The move is expected to boost the morale of 7 members as they continue to serve diligently.
All right, stay with us on the marketplace. We're taking a short break. When we come back, we'll discuss funeral tourism, putting the spotlight on the Asante Heme's funeral. And welcome back to the Marketplace. Time for our showbiz segment. We turn our focus to a unique and culturally rich phenomenon, funeral tourism. In Ghana, royal funerals, especially those held in the Ashanti Kingdom, attract not just mourners, but thousands of visitors, creating a surge in economic activity. We'll be spotlighting the recent funeral of the Asante Ma, a Queen Mother of the Ashanti Kingdom, and exploring how it drew international attention, boosted local businesses, and reaffirmed Kumasi's role as a cultural and spiritual hub. Joining me on Zoom is Joy News' Emmanuel Bride-Kweku to break down how these grand traditional ceremonies are becoming key drivers of tourism and a local enterprise. Good afternoon to you. So the funeral of the Asante Ma was a major event. Can you paint a picture of the scale and the kinds of visitors it attracted both locally and internationally?
All right, so Daryl, if I should say the funeral of the Asante Hima, the late Asante Hima, Nana Akufo-Addo Yadom III, was one that was a spectacle everyone probably have beheld or beheld yesterday. And in fact, this is not just an ordinary individual or a royal. This is the second ruler, or let me put it that way. In the absence of the Asante Hene, the Asante Hima takes charge as the ruler of the Ashanti Kingdom in the region. And so yesterday, and even from the start of the funeral, right from Sunday up until yesterday, Thursday, it drew a lot of attention from the locals themselves and even international visitors trooping to the Menchia Palace to observe this cultural history in the region. In fact, we had a lot of people come in, even the Asante man themselves, as I rightly mentioned, and even the international visitors also come in. In fact, at the beginning of the funeral on Monday, we saw some members of parliament, some local traditional leaders, and also the members of the diaspora coming to observe or pay homage or pay commiserations with the Asante Hene. And so for yesterday, which was the climax, if I should put it, the climax of the burial rites for the Asante Hima, we saw a lot of people. We saw locally, we saw the president, that's John Mahama, also former president, Nana Akufo-Addo, the vice president, former vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, also coming at this particular event. In fact, we had a lot of members of the diaspora. We have ambassadors from Peru, Mexico, Cuba, Zimbabwe, Sierra Leone, Canada, Italy, Switzerland, the European Union themselves, United Nations, Norway, and Togo, and even there are a lot of people at the funeral, the burial grounds of the Asante. So, in fact, we have a lot of people coming there, Daryl.
Well, beyond the cultural significance, what kind of economic impact do these royal funerals have on Kumasi and the broader Ashanti region? Who benefits the most?
And in fact, I would say everyone benefits from this particular funeral. You are talking about those from the food vending businesses to the funeral accessory makers. It had a positive impact on them. If I should go to the food vending businesses, although Menchia had prepared some meal for other people, those who be coming to the place freely, they gave it out freely. Other people had to resort to the food outside. So you have the market women, the food vendors around Menchia benefiting from this funeral. In fact, we understand that the kuntunkuni, that's the black cloth they wear during these funerals, the market boomed for them because you had a lot of people trooping to KJTR or other places, Bonri and the rest, looking for this particular cloth to attend for the funeral, and also that of the sandals that they wear, the slippers that they wear, that also had some rise in the market, the sales of the market. In fact, you know, these queen mothers also put on what we call the dancing fan. That's the hair, the haircut that they put on. At Asafo, we saw a lot of these queen mothers going there to have their hair do and all of that during the course of the week. So, in fact, the market in Kumasi really boomed yesterday, and even from Sunday up to yesterday, the market for everyone went well. Hotels are benefits and all of that.
hotels, transport services, artisans, food vendors, all capitalizing on such grand funerals. Do you see the potential for Ghana to formally integrate funeral tourism into its tourism strategy, or would that risk commercializing sacred traditions? I don't know if there's talk in the Ashanti region about how they can capitalize on these funeral celebrations.
Well, in fact, I think for Menchia, even the museum that we have in Menchia, when you go there, they have managed to capture a bit of the funeral rites that is being done in the Ashanti region, where they have documented it. So once you go there, they are able to display it to the visitors there for them to see. But I feel that there are sacred parts that does not really necessarily have to come out for the public to consume. In fact, the funeral we are talking about is not any ordinary thing. We're talking about the passage of life, someone transitioning from the physical world to the spiritual world. And that would entail that the families would have lost somebody they love. And so we cannot really commercialize the sorrow that characterizes this funeral for people to actually look at them. However, we can actually look at some aspects of the funerals themselves. We can look at how the coffin workshop, in Ghana, there's a bit of how we even carve out our coffins. You have some of them giving us bicycles, some of them giving a microphone. If the person was a singer, if the person was a farmer, they are giving the person a cocoa coffin. These are beautiful things we can look at. The textile weaving sector too, we can also look at those things and then capitalize on them and tell our story as African people to the rest of the world. Daryl.
Great insight. Thank you so much, Emmanuel Bait-Kweku there. I appreciate your time and your perspective. That's The Marketplace, everyone. Thanks for watching. There is more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Every city spend matters. BOG reveals how policy rate decisions are made. Also, Ghanaians are loyal to their pockets, not to brands. Expert says edges brands to reduce prices to gain goodwill. myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwao. Thanks for watching The Marketplace. It's going to be a long weekend. Enjoy.